Entonces, pues buenos días, hola a todos y todas. Pues ya me presentaron por ahí, pero soy Juan Diego Blas, estoy trabajando como jefe de deporte para el desarrollo social en el Comité Olímpico Guatemalteco y soy miembro activo del Centro Latinoamericano de Estudios Coubertinianos. Pues inicialmente me gustaría darles la bienvenida a todos y agradecerles su presencia en este día. Pues como saben, el Centro Latinoamericano de Estudios Coubertinianos, con el fin de homenajear al profesor Norbert Müller, uno de los grandes nombres de los estudios olímpicos y del movimiento coubertiniano que falleció este año, nos dejó un importante legado. Entonces, el CLEC dedica la segunda edición de los Clásicos Coubertinianos a la recolección, presentación de testimonios, comentarios, reflexiones sobre los efectos que provocaron sus emprendimientos académicos, sus publicaciones, su vida como maestro coubertiniano, su participación en organizaciones deportivas, su participación en los estudios y promoción del legado de Pierre de Coubertin. Por ello, el tema de esta segunda edición es el legado coubertiniano de Norbert Müller. En este momento cedo la palabra al profesor Nelson Todd, vicepresidente del Comité Internacional Pierre de Coubertin y representante de la Pontificia Universidad Católica de Río Grande do Sul, institución anfitriona del evento de este año. Profesor Nelson, la palabra es tuya.
Un momento. Bueno, amigos, muy bienvenidos. En nombre de la Pontificia Universidad Católica de Río Grande del Sur, Brasil, quisiera dar la bienvenida a todos los presentes. El pasado mes de febrero recibimos la dura noticia del fallecimiento del profesor Norbert Müller. Más que un gran referente en el campo de los estudios olímpicos, el profesor Müller nos deja un gran legado por su incansable trabajo con el movimiento coubertiniano en todo el mundo. Aquí, en Latinoamérica, no fue diferente. Por eso, con el aliento del profesor del Comité Internacional Pierre de Coubertin y la sensible iniciativa del Centro Latinoamericano de Estudios Coubertinianos, nos reunimos hoy para rendir homenaje al académico, al mentor, al presidente y sobre todo todos adjetivos a mi amigo Norbert Müller. Que sea un acontecimiento digno de este gran hombre. Muchas gracias y que tengan todos un lindo evento.
Muchas gracias, profesor Nelson, por las palabras. Ahora también le doy la palabra al profesor Daniel de la Cueva, que es el miembro correspondiente para América Latina del Comité Internacional Pierre de Coubertin. Profesor Daniel, tiene la palabra.
Estimados amigos de todo el mundo, muy buenos días. Para el CLEC, para el Centro Latinoamericano de Estudios Coubertinianos, es un día extraordinario para pensar y recordar a una persona extraordinaria. El CLEC le da las más cálidas bienvenidas a nuestra propuesta anual que se denomina Clásicos Coubertinianos. En esta segunda propuesta está destinada, como dijo muy bien recién Nelson, al tratamiento de un aspecto que reconocemos central y constitutivo del ideal de Pierre de Coubertin: su lucha continuada por otros. Y como él mismo decía, al atardecer, quien estaba delante de mí alcanzó el lugar donde yo partí esta mañana. Y quien viene detrás se beneficiará de los peligros que aparto y de las trampas que le señalo. La elección de este año no fue un problema, no fue una elección ardua, porque desde el principio encontramos razones más que suficientes, originales e importantes para pensar y rememorar lo que nos había dejado el doctor Norbert Müller. Por supuesto que su partida nos llenó de muchísima tristeza al mundo de los estudios olímpicos. Tenemos la certeza de que su nombre siempre será en sí mismo un homenaje póstumo a la seriedad académica. Nos hemos propuesto resaltar con esta presentación lo importante que ha sido para nosotros y en particular para Latinoamérica. Por un lado, su dedicación, su desvelo intelectual, sus investigaciones, su producción literaria y por todas las acciones de Norbert, que es la personificación del pensamiento y la filosofía de Pierre de Coubertin. Los aspectos humanos también eran notoriamente distintivos en su trato siempre amable, considerado, oportuno, pero sobre todo era una persona generosa. Inmediatamente surgió la iniciativa de analizar la dinámica que desplegó, las distintas facetas, sus áreas de interés, y hasta quizá tomando la idea prestada del libro que tanto le gustaba de su amigo Jean Dury sobre el barón Pierre de Coubertin. Así que asociamos a Norbert en distintas producciones y publicaciones, con su labor como científico y como investigador. Un aspecto muy interesante era su tarea docente, para conocer cómo fue visualizado por sus alumnos y por sus colegas, más aún pensando en una obra paralela, que fue la de formación de futuros y nuevos académicos, investigadores, científicos, especialistas en los estudios olímpicos y en particular, para traspasarles el interés sobre Pierre de Coubertin. Norbert se había involucrado también en organizaciones deportivas, en la organización de los Juegos Olímpicos, en entidades humanitarias y religiosas y, por supuesto, en todo lo que tenga que ver con el movimiento olímpico. Por último y no menos importante fue la actividad de Norbert Müller en el Comité Internacional Pierre de Coubertin, lo que tuvimos la enorme satisfacción de compartir alguna o varias de estas distintas facetas de su vida. Interpretamos que estamos frente a uno de los grandes especialistas de Pierre de Coubertin de los siglos XX y XXI, quizá uno de los más reconocidos. Estamos seguros que Norbert representa al olimpismo en acción, y por eso entendemos que nos deja un gran legado, que vamos a compartir a partir de ahora. Es un placer enorme presentarles a ustedes el legado coubertiniano de Norbert Müller. Bienvenidos y muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias, profesor Daniel. Pues también comentarles que el miembro del Centro Latinoamericano de Estudios Coubertinianos, Ricardo Pantoja, estuvo a pocos minutos en la casa del profesor Norbert Müller, en la presencia de su hija Teresa, y pues en esta ocasión grabó un pequeño video de una entrega simbólica del diploma honorífico de Maestro Coubertinario Excelsior. Así que los invitamos a todos a ver este bonito video.
In the house of our dear professor.
Un minuto y ya vamos a mirar el video ahora mismo. ¿Ya lo ven en la pantalla?
We are here in the house of our dear professor Norbert Müller, in behalf of Latin America Center of Studies, Coubertinian Studies, to give to Teresa. We are here with Teresa, the daughter of our dear Norbert, to give her this diploma in honor of all of importance of our professor in the Olympic movement and the historic sport movement in the world. And for us, especially for our center, it's so especially because he continued to inspire us to continue our work and continue to create more knowledge, create more information about the Olympics, about the sports, and try to spread this through the America, through the Latin America. And so, thank you. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much on behalf of my siblings, Andreas and Susanna. Well, we were really touched, deeply touched to hear that we've received the diploma on behalf of our father. It is a consolation to us to see that our father left his footprints almost all over the world in his field of research, and that his work and his achievements have an impact beyond his life. So once again, thank you so very much from the bottom of our heart for the diploma. Vielen herzlichen Dank. Obrigado.
Bueno, pues agradecemos a Teresa, la hija del profesor Norbert Müller, por aceptar participar en este momento con nosotros hoy. También agradecer al magíster Ricardo Pantoja por hacer parte de este encuentro. Y pues ahorita les pedimos que podamos esperar unos minutos. A las 10:05 está programado para empezar la conferencia de nuestro invitado especial. Entonces ahorita podemos pues compartir un poquito de comentarios y experiencias que quieran en lo que pues viene nuestro invitado especial.
Gracias, Juan Diego. Para que tengan conocimiento, Otto ya está en contacto con nosotros. Estamos ahora haciendo la prueba de la presentación y en pocos minutos estará con nosotros. Dear friends, Otto is coming. We had a contact with him now. As you can imagine, sometimes it's a little bit hard to deal with this kind of technologies. We practice a lot, Ines, and you know about these steps. So he's coming, so we are on time, and in 10 minutes we will start the presentation of our dear friend Otto Schantz.
Mientras se conecta el doctor Otto Schantz con nosotros, quería agradecerles en nombre del Centro Latinoamericano de Estudios Coubertinianos la presencia y la compañía, y también comentarles que están con nosotros la vicepresidenta del CIPC, la doctora Junko Tahara de Japón, y la doctora Inés Nicolaus, referente de la red de escuelas internacional Pierre de Coubertin. Dear Junko and Inés, I just presented you to meet the persons who speak in Spanish, and this is a good opportunity to say you thank you very much to be with us. It's a very important day for the CLEC, for the Centro, because we are talking about something extraordinary for an extraordinary person who was Dr. Norbert Müller. Dr. Otto Schantz is just to be with us in a few minutes, so we are all together waiting for him. And thank you for your distinguished presence here. Thank you for attending.
Do you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
Very
okay,
good.
okay.
Otto.
Okay.
Good morning. Thank you.
Hello. Good morning, Daya.
Nice to see you again, my friend.
Nice to see you. It's a pleasure for me. Yeah.
As we have time, I know that Christian Wacker wants to send hello, send you hello, Schantz.
Yeah.
Otto, hallo.
Hallo, Christian.
Ganz kurz auf Deutsch. Ich hoffe, du siehst es mir nach, dass ich dem Nelson deine Nummer weitergegeben habe.
Kein
My
Problem.
friend Christian. Ines, you
Hello,
have a
Otto.
conversation in German also. But in Japanese is not possible, Junko. Please don't.
Auf
no.
Deutsch, in German.
Hallo, Junko.
Hallo Otto. Wie geht
Hallo,
es
Otto.
dir?
Gut, und dir?
Geht
Schön, dich
auch.
zu sehen.
Ja, lange Zeit.
Professor Lamartine da Costa is coming also. You can see him in the
Yeah.
platform.
Hello, Lamartine.
He's connecting his audio. It's not ready yet.
Yeah.
Christian, if Marcia is around, is close, please ask her to send a hug to Professor Lamartine. He will be glad to see her. I was saying to my friends in Latin America, this kind of event, sometimes you need to be formal, but sometimes it's important to be informal also, because sometimes it's an opportunity to be with some old friends And so to be extremely formal sometimes is not the best, as we are so far. So forgive me for this informality from my side, but I can't sometimes to be so formal with some friends. Lamartine, welcome. Open your microphone to say hello to everybody. Your microphone is closed. Lamartine, your microphone is muted.
Day to everyone and have a good meeting. Thank you very much, Dr. Todd.
Lamartine, a Márcia está também online, junto com o Christian Wacker, e eles estão tentando te mandar um oi lá do Catar.
Oi, Lamartine, tudo bom contigo?
Tudo bom, grande prazer.
Tudo bem, estamos novamente no Catar.
A Bianca que está presente aqui, estou vendo ela sorridente na tela.
Eu já vi aqui a Bianca. Ela está ajudando aqui o Pavlos a conseguir um lugar para ficar no Rio de Janeiro.
Ah, que bom. Depois avisa as referências dele, né? Talvez a Bianca e eu possamos tomar um café com ele, alguma coisa.
Com certeza.
Com certeza, tá bom.
Com certeza. Só não sabemos se ele vai voltar, né? De repente ele vai amar o Rio e vai ficar por aqui para sempre.
Esse é o risco, esse risco sempre existe.
Dear friends, now the multicultural...
Yes, the multicultural languages right now.
Yes. Hello.
Changing to English, please.
Otto, after to speak in German now, we are trying in Portuguese, and Rogelia Bravo from Guatemala is smiling a lot because she's, I don't know, can you talk in Maya language, Rogelia?
Felicemente eu não falo português.
Ines is there too. Hello, Ines. Hallo. Wie geht's?
Gut, wie geht es euch?
Ja, alles super.
Hallo.
Ja, wir sind jetzt hier in Katar.
I think the next time I will be capable to give a couple of words to Yun Kotahara in Japanese, something like wakarimasu ka, konnichiwa, ohayo gozaimasu.
Ohayo gozaimasu. Arigatou gozaimasu.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. But this is all my knowledge about Japanese. I'm an old Euro practitioner, but not in the language, especially. Thank you very much to be with us. And it's good to put here some words in Brazil, in Portuguese and Spanish too. So our friend is ready to speak in English for all of us. Thank you.
Obrigado. Obrigado.
I have to be in Tokyo sometimes for practice in Kodokan.
Good.
I will let you know.
So, Juan Diego, I think we are on time. So I think I can give the word for you, my master of ceremonies, to restart our formal meeting with our guest, Professor Otto Schantz. So, Juan,
thank you.
puedes llevar adelante, por favor.
Otto, I will present you in Spanish, dear Otto, but afterwards I give you the lead in English.
Yeah.
Entonces, para continuar con el evento, pues les presentamos al profesor Otto Schantz, quien impartirá la conferencia Historia de las publicaciones de Norbert Müller sobre los escritos de Coubertiniano. El profesor Otto Schantz es experto en estudios físico-culturales con especial énfasis en los movimientos olímpico y paralímpico y sus ideologías. Estudió literatura moderna, filosofía, ciencias de la educación y ciencias del deporte en la Universidad de Johannes Gutenberg de Mainz, en la Universidad de Hagen y en la Universidad de París 4 de Sorbona, desde 1975 hasta 1983. Recibió su doctorado, summa cum laude, y su habilitación, título más alto que califica para una cátedra en Francia y Alemania, de la Universidad de Mainz en Alemania. El profesor Schantz impartió clases como profesor invitado de Sociología e Historia del Deporte en diferentes universidades de Alemania y Suiza, específicamente Frankfurt, Coblenza, Maguncia y Lausana. Después de su nombramiento en el 2004 como profesor titular en la Universidad de Koblenz-Landau, en Alemania, se desempeñó como decano de la Facultad de Ciencias de Deporte de Koblenz durante ambos mandatos. Fue invitado como profesor en muchas universidades alrededor del mundo y como conferencista y supervisor de seminarios de posgrado en la Academia Olímpica Internacional en Antigua Grecia desde 1996 hasta el presente. En 1999 se convirtió en miembro fundador del Consejo de Investigación del Comité Olímpico Internacional y ahora es miembro honorario del Comité Internacional Pierre de Coubertin. Por su investigación ha recibido numerosas becas y premios académicos. Por ejemplo, la Orden Olímpica del Comité Olímpico Internacional en 1997. Recomendemos que durante la presentación de nuestro invitado enviaren las preguntas por chat y ya yo se las trasladaré a nuestro querido invitado. Y como el discurso del invitado será en inglés, para aquellos que quieran escuchar el español, pues es necesario, como ya les había comentado Nelson, hacer clic en el icono de interpretación que aparece abajo en pantalla y ya pueden escoger ahí el idioma español. El icono está por un pequeño globito y ya cuando están en español ya van a escuchar pues el gran apoyo que nos están dando aquí también nuestras traductoras. También recordemos que durante la sesión, por favor, se mantengan silenciados los micrófonos, así que dejamos con la palabra al profesor Otto Schantz. So, Professor Otto, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much for this presentation, which was probably longer than my talk will be. Thank you very much. But first of all, I would like to thank the organizers of the Clásicos Coubertinianos to dedicate this session to Norbert Müller, to my late colleague and friend. And I also have to thank you for having been invited to give a talk during this session. I will talk about Norbert Müller's role in the promotion and publication of Pierre de Coubertin's writings. First, I will talk about the first attempts to publish Coubertin's writing, then about 3 volumes of selected writings, the origin of this project, my first encounter with Norbert, and the elaboration of these 3 volumes. And then I will talk a little bit about the volume called Olympism and its translations. And then about the complete writings on CD. And finally, I will make some concluding and some critical remarks on the impact of these publications. We already had in 1933, at the occasion of the 17th anniversary of Coubertin, we had a first publication of Coubertin's writing by friends of Coubertin. They edited in 1933 an anthology which they presented in form of 4 chapters. One chapter about the writings on sports and pedagogy with 17 articles. Another chapter about the historical studies with 48 texts of historical studies from Coubertin. Then 7 texts of political and social studies. And finally, I think it was about 9 texts, which they called varieties. This anthology was edited by, there was Messali, there was Arnold Raymond, the director of the University of Lausanne at this time, and also Maurice Potéchet and some other friends of Coubertin. About 30 years later, the Carl Diem Institute. It's you could call it an Olympic Research Institute at the German Sports University in Cologne. This Carl Diem Institute, it was created, I think in 1964. They published in 1966 a volume with 47 texts of Pierre de Coubertin. It was called Der Olympische Gedanke, or the Olympic Idea, l'idée olympique. It was published in 3 languages. And I think it was pretty successful, and it was often quoted. And in the 60s, it served many researchers and many people as a kind of standard source of Coubertin's writings. In the 1970s, this Carl Diem Institute planned to publish the complete writings of Coubertin. But due to the problems of the copyright, this project was stopped, and they only produced 1 volume, but it was never really published. I have this volume here. It should be the first volume of 7 volumes, but as I told you, there had been problems with the copyright of the writings. And there was another problem. They sought to publish 7 volumes with every volumes of about 1,000 pages, but Coubertin published more than 15,000 printed pages. It wouldn't have been enough to publish 7,000 pages. But end of the 1970s, after discussion on the copyright, the Carl Diem Institute in Cologne and the International Olympic Committee, with the agreement of the Coubertin family, decided to publish an important selection of Coubertin's writing, which should be available at the occasion of the 50th anniversary of Coubertin's death. A scientific committee was created in order to supervise this project. In this scientific committee, you had a member representing the Coubertin family. It was Geoffroy de Navacelle. Then you had the members of the Carl Diem Institute, Lieselot Diem, and also Norbert Müller was considered to be a member of the Carl Diem Institute at this time. And you had 1 member representing the International Pierre de Coubertin Committee. It was Georges Rioux, professor of philosophy. And you had 2 members from the National German Olympic Committee and 2 members from the International Olympic Committee. It was Alexandru Sipercu from Romania and Raymond Gaffner from Lausanne. Lieselot Diem, the widow of Carl Diem, and at this time director of the Institute, Carl Diem, asked Norbert Müller, who at this time was I would say, the only expert for Coubertin. He just had finished his thesis on the International Olympic Academy and on the ideas of Coubertin. And he was asked to be the scientific coordinator of this project. And the scientific committee also decided that Norbert Müller should have an assistant researcher in order to publish these selected writings of Coubertin. At this time, I had just started to prepare my PhD, and I was looking for a job to finance my studies. So when I saw this job offer, I postulated for this job, and fortunately, I got invited for an interview. it was first Norbert Müller who interviewed me. I think at the beginning of this interview, I felt that he was a little bit reluctant because I prepared a PhD thesis in a complete different field which had nothing to do with sport history or Olympism. But then when we talked about sport history and when he asked me questions about Olympic movement and sport history, I think I could convince him that I also knew something in this field. And when he heard that I earned degrees in philosophy and French literature, I think then he was convinced and he wanted me to be his assistant. And after another interview with Liselott Diem, I finally got this job. And this was a start of a 40-year-long friendship with Norbert Müller. It was funny, only some years later, we both realized that we already had met about 15 years before this interview. This was during a high jump competition. I still remember I competed, I think it was in the 12 years old category. And I always remember this nice gentleman coming to me and giving me some advices, some technical advices. And he warmed up for the men's competition, but he tried to help me and give me advices. And finally we met again at the winner ceremony because we both won our competition, me in the 12-year category and he in the men's category. And I admired this high jumper, and I thought, oh, it's a really nice person. He helped me, and yeah. But we realized this only some years later, after he interviewed me the first time. Yeah, then we started to prepare these 3 volumes of the selected writings. And when we started, the first question arose, yeah, this should be the selected writings of Coubertin, but what will be the base of the selection? And everybody, although the scientific committee agreed that the selection should be based on all published texts by Coubertin. So the first thing to do was to collect all the published texts and to make a selection from them. At first, we assumed that there would be around 400 articles in addition to the 28 books and booklets already known. Because in 1968, the Kaldim Institute published a bibliography which contained almost 300 titles of Coubertin's works. And some years later, in 1971, Bernard Gillet published at this time, the most complete and comprehensive bibliography with 625 titles, including articles that were or have been published several times. But as we collected, or as we started to collect the writings, we quickly noticed that there were still many publications by Coubertin that were previously unknown. So we started collecting Coubertin's writing systematically and with a kind of detective flair. To do this, I visited library and archives in all over Europe. You have to imagine at this time, there was no internet, and at this time, the libraries were not digitized. In the end, the list of publications had grown from 625 to more than 1,500. My job was to record and to analyze all these writings with a special analysis sheet and to write summaries to every text. And based on this analysis and summaries, we made a preliminary selection together with Georges Rioux, who was responsible for the first volume. And this first selection we presented to the scientific committee, which decided about the final selection. One big problem at this time was were the writings published anonymously or under pseudonym. We analyzed these texts very carefully in terms of content and style and compared them with known texts signed by Coubertin. Finally, we wrote an introduction to the different texts and to the different volumes. And the 3 volumes, they were published in 1986 by Weidmann in Zurich, Hildesheim, and New York. An Arabic translation of these 3 volumes prepared by the Olympic Museum of Qatar is ready, but I don't know if or when it will be published. Perhaps Christian Wacker will know more about this. For a long time, these 3 volumes were an important tool for Coubertin researchers. However, Norbert wanted to make Coubertin's idea accessible to a wide audience all around the world. That's why he tried very early on to find money for translations. And as he was an excellent manager and excellent fundraiser, he found this money. He could convince the IUC to translate a part of the 3 volumes into English. It was mainly the 2nd volume, which deals with Olympism, which was translated into English. Some articles from the 1st and the 3rd volume were added, and as Norbert was convinced of the power of images, he edited a lot of iconic documents. Today, the English volume Olympism, I have it. I think you all know this volume, Olympism, very well known. I think now it's a standard reference of Coubertin's thoughts and ideas. It has been translated partly or entirely in many different languages: Spanish, Chinese, Portuguese. Nelson was implied in this. Japanese, and I think there are also other translation in preparation. There was a question about Polish translation, etc. And as I told you, in order to prepare the 3 selected volumes in French, we tried to collect the complete writings of Coubertin. But at this time, in the 18th, it would have been too expensive to publish the complete works as a paper edition. But later, we had the technical possibilities to publish the complete works on a CD. And with this new technical possibilities, we finally published about 15,000 pages in 2013 on a CD, with a possibility now to do digital full text research on this CD. I think you all also know this CD, and I think now you also have access to the complete works on the internet via the website of the International Pierre de Coubertin Committee. And I think on this CD we have, I would say, 99% of the works of Coubertin. But I have to say, we still, in the last years, we still found 3 or 4 articles, and I think there will be one surprise. I think sometimes I will have the possibility to write about this and to show this unknown articles. Yeah, let me make also some critical remarks on the impact of these publications. I think, sure, it's a fantastic thing to have all these works now accessible, but there are also some problems, and in my opinion, there are 3 main problems concerning these publications of Coubertin's writing. One problem are the translation. Sure, talking about translation, I would profit from this occasion to thank the translators. I think my talk is translated into Spanish and Portuguese. I would like to. I think it's Jamie and Maria who do this. I met them in a previous meeting when we tested the connection, and I would like to thank them because I know it because I did a lot of translation and interpretation, and I think it's an important and difficult work. The problem with translations, okay, you have the words which cross the borders, but in general the context stays behind, and it's very difficult. And Coubertin's French is a French of an aristocrat of the 19th century, and even for today's French native speakers, it's not easy to understand exactly the meaning of some concepts which have to be placed in the historical context. And there's one big problem with the translation. Some translations, the Chinese translation, for example, is a translation from the English translation. And in Germany, we have a children game. It's called the silent post. You have if you have a children, one children is whispering a word in the ear of his neighbor, and the neighbor is trying to understand the word and whispers it to the other. And then at the end, they ask, what did you understand? And often the outcome is completely different. And I think it's a little bit with the translation. If you translate the original in one language and then to translate the translation in another language, the outcome could be quite different. But I have to say the Spanish translation is a very good translation. I knew the translator, and it's based on the original. And I think the Portuguese is also based on the original and on the Spanish and the original French. I think sure it's much more easier to translate the Roman language, to translate the French in a Roman language than maybe in Chinese or Japanese. But yeah, I think that the first problem that we have to be careful, especially as researcher, when we make references to Coubertin's cite quotations, etc. We have to be careful. Another problem is what I would call the selection translation bias. We have a selection of text translated in English, and these are mainly texts from the volume Olympism. These are mainly Coubertin's texts on Olympism, but we have to say that the texts on Olympism are even not 10% of the complete writings of Coubertin. They are perhaps 6 or 8% of the writings, and if we only refer to this text and refer to this as the ideas of Coubertin, we leave all the rest outside. And I think there we have to be careful too. Another problem, it's an advantage, a big advantage, but a problem at the same time. It's a digital accessibility. Now you have with this CD, you have 15,000 pages accessible. The whole work of Coubertin. But what many researchers do now, when they maybe take an example, they want to know more what Coubertin said about women. Okay, what are you doing? You take the CD and you search the term woman, women, etc. in Coubertin's writing, and you will find a couple of quotations where Coubertin is saying something about women, and then you can quote these quotations. But often, in this way, you take quotations out of the context. In former times, when we had only written text and books, we had to search, to read hundreds of pages to find ideas about something, and we had at the same time we had the context where this Coubertin wrote about these things, and now I think with this facilities to access it with certain keywords, there is a danger that you take things out of the context. But anyway, I think without any doubt, it was due to the efforts of Norbert Müller that the ideas of Coubertin's are known so widely on a worldwide level, and that they are accessible, so easy accessible. Especially during his terms as a president of the International Pierre de Coubertin Committee, he made tremendous efforts to promote and organize translations of Coubertin's writings. And he always wanted to make the text available for everybody and also free for everybody on the internet. And I think this is a big legacy of the work of Coubertin. Yeah, thank you for your attention. And I'm ready for questions now, if you have.
Thank you, Professor Otto. Los invitamos, pues ahorita tenemos un espacio para preguntas, para los que quieran hacer alguna pregunta, pues recordarles que la pueden hacer por chat, ya sea a mi mensaje privado o al de todos, en español o en inglés, yo se las voy a traducir. Tenemos ya una primera pregunta. So, Otto, we have the first question from Carolina Funtura from Brazil. She says, yeah. Professor Schantz, in addition to the topic presented by you on a personal level, I would like you to share a great moment, memory, event, or anecdote lived with Professor Norbert Müller.
She wanted to share anecdotes.
Yes, from you and Professor Norbert Müller.
Oh, I could, yeah, I could tell so many anecdotes, but
it's okay.
Yeah,
Otto, yeah. Maybe the anecdote in Spanish is not something funny. It's a situation. So it's different in Portuguese and in English. So it's not necessarily something funny, but any special occasion that you share with Professor Norbert.
I imagine that, or it was now a special occasion, but a thing was what was very important with him. He was when we worked together, he was very enthusiastic. We never had we never stopped. We never said, yeah, now we have to stop or to eat something or something. Sometimes when we had a problem, we worked until in the morning at 2 o'clock. or sometimes before a conference, or when we went somewhere, he didn't know in the morning, should we take the plane or the train? And then he decided in the last minute, okay, we take the plane. We have no time to take the train. We have to do this and this. We will take the plane. And then we arrived. One day, I think the plane had to wait for us because we really arrived last minute, and he was always very enthusiastic, and when he started to do something, he did it with his whole heart and body and mind. He was into it, and nothing could stop him, or yeah, it was impressive. Yeah.
Thank you, Professor Otto. We don't have any questions in the chat. If you want to ask the question directly to Professor Otto, please go ahead and turn on your mic. I have one, Otto, from Tomás Bolaños. He says, thank you very much for accepting our invitation. Your conference confirms the huge impact of the work of Müller, but also your work. So very thankful. It is Tomás Bolaños from Colombia.
Yeah, thank you.
Igual, si quieren hacer una pregunta directa en español, pueden prender el micrófono, pues yo se la puedo traducir directo ahí a Otto. Daniel, por favor.
Gracias, Juan Diego. Quisiera que le preguntes, por favor, al doctor Otto Schantz. Primero y principal, decirle que ha sido una excelente disertación y agradecerle mucho su presencia con nosotros. Si, en su opinión, la obra de Norbert dejó futuros horizontes, es decir, si dejó nuevos trabajos por hacer, ¿cuáles serían las direcciones del trabajo de Norbert Müller en el futuro, bajo el punto de vista de las publicaciones de Pierre de Coubertin?
Okay. So Otto, Daniel says, thank you very much also for your conference, and he was to ask for your opinion in the work of Norbert Müller. What's the new horizon, or what's the new works that have to be done to follow the works that Norbert has been doing? What do you think it's the things that we have to do, or the young people have to do to follow the work that Norbert has done?
Yeah. Okay. I think one of the main, for me, one of the main legacies of Norbert was he wanted to promote this ideas of Coubertin, and this ideas of bringing people together from the whole world, from different nations, etc., in the Olympic spirit. And he had nowadays we talk a lot about Olympic education, and I think he had a very practical approach to Olympic education, and for him the most important thing to educate and really to convince people, and was to bring people together, to make sure that people could meet together, like Ines is now doing with the youth camps, and he didn't do only this concerning Olympic education. He was also very active concerning the bringing French and German young people together. I think it was you have to imagine Germany and France. We were a long time. We were hereditary enemies, and there was a lot of work to do after the Second World War to bring these two nations together. And now we are friends. And Norbert also contributed to this. We did a lot of, we organized youth camps with French and German students. He came to the University of Strasbourg when I was in Strasbourg, and he always was engaged, or he always tried to promote such meetings, bringing young people together and bringing them together in this special occasion, the German French meetings, but also in the Olympic education, bring people and youngsters from all over the world together, like at the International Olympic Academy. And I think all the young people who participated at such kind of meetings, for them it was a lifelong experience. They never will forget. It cannot replace some reading or some conference. You have to live this kind of things.
Thank you, Professor Otto. We have the word for Professor Nelson, please.
Otto, thank you very much once again. And I would like to know what projects not carried out by Norbert would pose new challenges for those who worked with him.
But yeah, I think there we all the time we searched for writings of Coubertin, and I told you that still we found some articles which are not published now on a CD, and you also have other. We only published the writings, the published writings, but now you have manuscripts, and you have letters, and I think Norbert also wanted to bring this other sources and manuscripts together, and perhaps try to publish it. Yeah, we talked about this some weeks before he passed away, and I think he would have liked to do a little bit more and to search more what Coubertin wrote.
Thank you, Otto. Thank you.
Thank you, Otto. Elvira, you turn on your mic. I don't know if you have any question or commentary.
No.
Okay, no problem. Anyone else has any questions?
But I perhaps to Nelson, I would perhaps as Ines is here, I would like to add something. I had a long time ago, I had conversations with Norbert, and also before last year, we talked about these meetings, bringing young people together. And we also talked about what should be done, or perhaps what we where we could focus now, bring people or young people together in very difficult situations. And we especially talked about Israel and Palestine. Bring the young kids from Palestine and Israel together, where there are really conflicts between nations, and to try to overcome these conflicts, bringing the young people from these different nations together. A little bit what's going on with France and Germany.
Thank you, Professor Otto. We have the last question for today from André Nessi from Sao Paulo, Brazil. He asks specifically to you, Professor Otto, as a specialist, what's your current studies in Europe besides Coubertin? Are you researching something else besides Coubertin?
My present studies. Now I'm trying to write something about unknown publications of Coubertin. I'm preparing something, and there's another. There will be during the games in Paris 24. There will be a publication and also seminars with French and German scholars and on Olympism, and one topic will be Coubertin and Germany. And now I'm a little bit searching and writing about the relation of Coubertin and Germany. And perhaps I can add, Norbert and me, we are from almost the same region. He was born 80 kilometers far from my hometown and in Speyer, and there is some relation to Coubertin in our region too. Real, who invented, if you could say, the marathon, Olympic marathon. He was born 15 kilometers from my hometown and just 50 kilometers from the hometown from Norbert. And the first researcher who wrote the first dissertation on Coubertin is also from our region. It was published in the 30s, first publication, first dissertation on first PhD dissertation on Coubertin by Kurt Zentner, who was born 5 kilometers from my hometown and not too far away from Norbert too. And we have some, from our origin, we have some relation to the Olympic movement. And Coubertin, his wife, is from Alsace, from the Alsatian region, which is also not far away from our region.
Well, thank you very much, dear Otto, for your time. In the name of the center, we are very happy that you agreed to participate with us. So please, everyone, please give a warm claps to Otto. Thank you very much. We will continue with the program. So thank you very much, Otto, for your time and all your experience. Bueno. Continuamos. No, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, I will stay a little bit more longer, but then I have to leave because as I told you, I have a family reunion.
No problem.
Okay.
No problem. Thank you, Otto. Bueno, pues agradecemos una vez más a profesor Otto Schantz. Vamos a continuar con el programa. Ahora pues ya pasaremos al primer panel del día. El tema es participaciones de Norbert Müller en organizaciones educativas, sociales, eclesiales y deportivas. Los tres invitados que hablarán sobre este tema serán pues Elvira Ramini, que ya es una gran conocida de todos aquí en el CLEC, Santiago Perez de Camino, y también estará Christian Wagner. Las preguntas, de igual forma que como hicimos ahorita con el profesor Otto, las pueden ir enviando por chat y van a ser respondidas al final de las presentaciones. Las presentaciones van a ir en orden, pues primero va Elvira, después va Santiago y de último pues va el profesor Wagner. Entonces vamos a empezar con Elvira. Tengo el placer de presentarles a la señora Elvira Ramini. Ella es secretaria general del Comité Internacional Pierre de Coubertin desde el 2018. Es miembro ad honorem del Centro Latinoamericano de Estudios Coubertinianos. Trabajó en varios departamentos del Comité Olímpico Internacional desde 1986 hasta el 2015. 11 años con la Comisión Médica del COI, organizando protocolos médicos en los Juegos Olímpicos, Hospital de la Vía Olímpica, procedimientos de control de dopaje y prueba de género para atletas femeninas. Tiene una maestría en estudios olímpicos por la Universidad Alemana del Deporte de Colonia. Estudió con el profesor Dr. Norbert Müller y el profesor Stefan Wasson. Así que cedo la palabra a nuestra invitada, Elvira Ramini. Por favor, adelante.
Sí, buenas tardes o buenos días. Saludo a los anfitriones de este evento tan importante para todos nosotros. Presento disculpas del presidente del Comité Internacional Pierre de Coubertin, Stefan Wasson, que lamentablemente no ha podido estar aquí con nosotros hoy. En la primera diapositiva hoy deseo recordar a Norbert como un hombre, un investigador que fue fiel a Pierre de Coubertin y los presidentes del COI, Juan Antonio Samaranch, Jacques Rogge y Thomas Bach. Norbert Müller es el hombre que ayudó al Comité Olímpico Internacional a escribir su historia, la historia de la propia institución y la historia del movimiento olímpico. Más concretamente, me gustaría centrarme en la relación de Norbert con el COI durante la presidencia de Juan Antonio Samaranch, 1980-2001. Ambos, tanto Samaranch como Norbert, fueron fieles a Coubertin y lo dieron a conocer al mundo. La siguiente diapositiva. Samaranch heredó un movimiento que se estaba desmoronando. El COI, los Juegos Olímpicos, las instituciones deportivas se estaban desvaneciendo después de 3 boicots consecutivos: Montreal 76, Moscú 80 y Los Ángeles 84. Una de las múltiples iniciativas del presidente Samaranch fue sacar a la luz las razones educativas y culturales del movimiento olímpico. Este gran espacio, la educación y la cultura, estaban ausentes, eran inexistentes. El presidente Samaranch inicia una nueva era al tratar los desafíos con un enfoque diferente. Los objetivos inmediatos eran unidad, universalidad y la independencia del movimiento olímpico. Pero aún más importante, el punto decisivo en el desarrollo del movimiento olímpico fue la introducción de la educación. La siguiente diapositiva. Coubertin era el alma motora, ideólogo, ejecutor, el creador de la gran aventura olímpica moderna. Y el presidente Samaranch lo sabía. El presidente Samaranch desveló la persona de Coubertin gracias a su proyecto educativo. Coubertin decía: el olimpismo es una escuela de nobleza, moral y pureza, así como de resistencia física y energía. Para que luego más tarde el presidente Samaranch diga: contribuir a la construcción de un mundo mejor a través del deporte y educar a los jóvenes a través del deporte. Con lo cual sigue la misma línea. El presidente Samaranch cambia la cara del movimiento olímpico y aportará la vanguardia del pensamiento e investigación académica. Con el presidente Samaran, el olimpismo entra en el debate de los valores culturales junto con las ciencias, las artes y la filosofía. En la siguiente diapositiva, inmediatamente el presidente Samaran se pone a crear las condiciones para empezar las investigaciones históricas. El 11 de octubre de 1982 se inaugura en Lausanne el Centro de Estudios Olímpicos. Este centro reabre el Museo Olímpico, que estaba cerrado desde la muerte de Coubertin. Y este Museo Olímpico en realidad va a ser el Centro de Estudios Olímpicos, teniendo en cuenta que se van a encontrar unidos en este museo los archivos, los documentos, las películas y las fotos que el COI poseía en aquel momento. Y podemos decir que en ese momento comienza el desarrollo de proyectos de investigación, de difusión de información, de publicaciones sobre el movimiento olímpico. Empieza en realidad una introducción a la educación. El objetivo era preservar los ideales morales del deporte. El objetivo era promover los valores humanistas del movimiento olímpico. La siguiente diapositiva. El presidente Samaran se rodea de investigadores. Norbert Müller no es solo un colaborador, es un amigo. Hay una fuerte amistad entre las dos personas. El primer deber o el primer proyecto que le han encargado era el de director científico y coordinador del libro El Comité Olímpico Internacional 100 años. Es una publicación en 3 volúmenes que abarca el periodo comprendido entre 1894 y 1994 y las presidencias de Viquelas, Coubertin, Baelatour, Edstrom, Brandage, Quilanin y Juan Antonio Samaran. El objetivo de esta publicación era dar a conocer por primera vez la estructura del Comité Olímpico Internacional y del movimiento olímpico y también dar a conocer la historia del movimiento olímpico. La siguiente diapositiva. El presidente Samaran le da un segundo encargo a Norbert Müller, el de escribir la historia de los congresos del COI. Fue en París, 1994, durante el Gran Congreso del COI del Centenario, cuando Norbert Müller presenta su libro 100 años de Congresos Olímpicos, 1894-1994. Este libro es una retrospectiva de un siglo de historia olímpica moderna con los logros y éxitos de los anteriores congresos. Y la siguiente y la última diapositiva. Bueno, ya hemos oído mucho sobre esta publicación. Yo no tengo mucho que añadir, excepto decir que estos textos son una selección de textos, una contribución fundamental al patrimonio de la historiografía del deporte y una fuente documental esencial en el estudio de la obra de Coubertin y de los fundamentos del olimpismo moderno. La obra recorre los aspectos filosóficos, pedagógicos, éticos y sociales del rico legado literario de Coubertin y crea el renacimiento de Coubertin en el mundo académico. Yo creo que mi breve presentación me gustaría terminar diciendo que ha sido un honor conocer a Norbert Müller como el staff del COI, que seguía las reuniones en las que él participaba, como profesor en el programa máster y como una persona amiga que siempre ha sido franca y clara y siempre dando buenos consejos de amigo. Muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias, Elvira, por la presentación. Les recordamos que sigan mandando pues, sus preguntas por el chat. Al final del panel las vamos a estar haciendo a los diferentes ponentes. Ahorita presento pues, al señor Santiago Perez, de Camino, que tiene la gran particularidad que es el bisnieto del fundador del Real Madrid. Fue el encargado de la oficina de visados de la Secretaría de la Jornada Mundial de la Juventud Madrid 2011. Colaboró por más de 10 años en la pastoral juvenil de la diócesis de Madrid, en la formación de entrenadores deportivos y alumnos de varios colegios y clubes juveniles. Su actual cargo es el de ser el responsable de la sección Iglesia y Deporte del Consejo Pontificio para los laicos, la familia y la vida. No pudo estar presente con nosotros el día de hoy, pero tenemos un video con la participación de nuestro invitado, así que les compartimos este video del señor Santiago Pérez de Camino.
Un momento que ya voy a compartir la pantalla. Juan Diego, me parece que la Martín da Costa quiere hablar en cuanto abro el documento. Un momento.
Sí, perfecto. Por favor, la Martín.
Sí, solamente una pequeña información, pero me parece importante. Congratulaciones, señora Ramini, por la presentación. ¿Por qué no se habla la traducción en China? Hay una traducción corriente. Otto Schantz no ha dicho nada y ahora también en su inventario no ha aparecido esta traducción, que es el tiempo que se fue, dos décadas iniciales del año 2000, fue muy importante. Gracias.
Gracias, la Martín, por el aporte.
Bueno.
Ahora sí ya tenemos el video aquí listo.
Queridos amigos del Centro Latinoamericano de Estudios Coubertinianos, es un placer poder participar en esta segunda edición de los Clásicos Coubertinianos, que se ha transformado, como no podía ser de otra manera este año, en un homenaje póstumo al profesor Norbert Müller, uno de los mayores estudiosos y conocedores, si no el que más, de la figura de Pierre de Coubertin de nuestros días. Agradezco al Centro Latinoamericano de Estudios Coubertinianos y a la Pontificia Universidad Católica de Río Grande do Sul la invitación a participar hoy en este homenaje y que por motivos de un compromiso con el Papa en Roma esta semana no me han permitido poder hacerlo en directo. Como mencioné en la pasada edición, la Oficina de Iglesia y Deporte de la Santa Sede, al interno del entonces Consejo Pontificio para los Laicos, ahora Dicasterio para los Laicos, la Familia y la Vida, nació en 2004 por expreso deseo de San Juan Pablo II. Él, que era un verdadero atleta de Cristo, quiso, con una visión profética, que hubiera en el Vaticano una sección que se ocupara del estudio y la evangelización a través del deporte y de fomentar los valores y las virtudes que la práctica deportiva vivida correctamente fomenta en las personas y en las comunidades. Lo que mucha gente no sabe es que desde ese mismo año Norbert fue un estrecho colaborador de la oficina. una colaboración nacida de la amistad entre Monseñor Joseph Clemens, que entonces era el secretario general del Dicasterio Vaticano, y Norbert Müller, y que fue creciendo con los años hasta hacerse oficial en 2008 el nombramiento pontificio del profesor Müller como miembro de pleno derecho del Consejo Pontificio para los Laicos del Vaticano. El profesor Müller era conocido a nivel internacional por su compromiso y su amor al deporte. Era un hombre apasionado y dedicado a su fe y a los ideales del deporte. Todos recordamos con gratitud en la oficina su trato afectuoso, su ejemplo personal, su discreción y su sencillez. Gracias a su colaboración, la Santa Sede ha podido establecer lazos de amistad con muchas instituciones, empezando por el Comité Olímpico y el Comité Paralímpico Internacional, con muchas federaciones internacionales o con grandes expertos de la ética deportiva, la inclusión o la lucha contra la corrupción y el dopaje en el deporte. Sin embargo, Norbert también supo conectar el Vaticano con tantas pequeñas realidades cristianas que se esforzaban ya desde hacía tiempo en transmitir el mensaje evangélico a través del deporte. Sin duda, su trabajo como profesor universitario, como miembro y después presidente del Comité Internacional Pierre de Coubertin y como miembro de una comisión del Comité Olímpico Internacional, poseía una visión amplia y me atrevería a decir que a veces hasta visionaria del deporte, de sus desafíos y de los riesgos que han ido floreciendo con el paso del tiempo. Prueba de ello fue su colaboración en la programación y realización de los seminarios de estudio internacionales que el Vaticano ha promovido durante estos años. Por eso, en esta relación fraterna que podríamos asemejar a una carrera, la colaboración del profesor Müller es un testigo que simbólicamente el barón de Coubertin le cedió a Norbert para estrechar aún más los lazos del deporte y de la fe cristiana. El Papa Pío X, que con una previsión de la que carecían muchos dirigentes deportivos de la época, recibió varias veces en el Vaticano a gimnastas de diferentes partes de Europa y puso en práctica lo que de Coubertin había soñado al fundar los Juegos Olímpicos modernos, es decir, hacer del deporte un instrumento para acercar a las naciones, una perspectiva internacional que alió a Pío X y al barón de Coubertin y que ha continuado y continúa también gracias a Norbert Müller. En esta estrecha colaboración, Norbert Müller entendió que el trabajo que se realiza aquí pocas veces tiene una gratificación personal o un reconocimiento público. Es más un trabajo escondido, al más puro estilo diplomático en ocasiones, y en el que sabía desenvolverse con gran sencillez, a pesar de su experiencia y su sabiduría, porque a él no le importaban los méritos propios, sino el fin último de la práctica deportiva, y esto es hacer mejores y más felices a las personas. De hecho, en un artículo titulado "El deporte alimenta el espíritu", Norbert Müller señaló, y cito: "La relación entre un papa y el deporte revela no solo su actitud hacia el deporte moderno y el movimiento olímpico, sino sobre todo su relación con el ser humano en su conjunto. En esta última se incluye también la percepción del cuerpo humano, las virtudes humanas, la convivencia armoniosa en nuestro planeta y la posibilidad de un lenguaje universal que elimine las barreras entre culturas, países y naciones. Así, reflejados en el deporte, podemos ver al propio ser humano y todo lo que el deporte puede hacer posible al servicio de las personas". Quisiera poner como colofón a este testimonio mío un ejemplo de esta colaboración. Desde 2010 se empezó a trabajar en un borrador de lo que 8 años más tarde se convirtió en el primer documento integral de la Santa Sede sobre el deporte, que lleva por título "Dar lo mejor de uno mismo". El primer borrador se realizó con la colaboración de diversas personas, coordinadas por Norbert y por mi predecesor, el padre Kevin Lixi. Un documento filosófico profundo, a medida del pensamiento del Papa Benedicto XVI. Pero cuando en 2013 llegó el Papa Francisco y comencé a trabajar en ese borrador, le propuse hacer un trabajo más pastoral, más didáctico y más accesible al público en general. Entonces Norbert entendió que el Papa nos pedía algo que pudiera leer un atleta, un académico o un joven que se inicie en la práctica deportiva, y supo rendir su sabiduría para hacer realidad este deseo del Papa. El lema olímpico "más lejos, más alto, más fuerte", que Coubertin acuñó gracias al padre Henri Didon, Podría ser un lema también de la relación de Norbert con esta oficina, porque nos animaba siempre a buscar lo mejor de nosotros mismos. Por eso concluyo con este deseo, para que ese ir más lejos, más alto y más fuerte nos lleve a dar lo mejor de nosotros mismos para con los demás y así crear una sociedad mejor y más fraterna. Muchas gracias.
Bueno, pues agradecemos ahí el tiempo del señor Santiago Perez de Camino por este excelente video. Procedemos con el panel. Ahorita presento al profesor Christian Wagner, quien es el arqueólogo e historiador deportivo. Su principal campo de investigación es la historia del deporte antiguo, pero también la historia del siglo XIX y del deporte olímpico. Ha organizado alrededor de 30 exhibiciones deportivas a nivel internacional durante los últimos 15 años. Trabajó como arqueólogo en la excavación de la antigua Olimpia, Grecia, en la década de 1990. Después de eso se unió a una editorial científica y dirigió la oficina editorial. De 2005 a 2008 dirigió el German Sports and Olympia Museum en Colonia y fue director del Qatar Olympic and Sports Museum en Doha, Qatar, del 2008 al 2014, donde ha estado trabajando nuevamente desde principios de este año. En el 2014 asumió la responsabilidad de construir una academia de museos en la Universidad de Dresden, Alemania. Ha enseñado en varias universidades y ha publicado 15 libros y unos 60 artículos sobre temas de historia y arqueología del deporte. Como el discurso del invitado será en inglés, pues ya sabemos la metodología del libro de interpretación para que puedan estar ahí en español. Igual las preguntas las pueden mandar por el chat y pues entonces ya cedo la palabra al doctor Christian Wagner. Christian, welcome. Thank you very much for your time. You have your time and the audience.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Juan Diego. I'm truly sorry that I'm not able to speak in Spanish. I could give it a try in Portuguese, and perhaps it could end up into some anecdotes due to the very German way of using Portuguese. But I hope you're all fine with me talking in English today. I did not prepare a PowerPoint presentation for a very simple reason. I was thinking and reflecting about what I would like to address today, and some of the things will be personal and related to my experiences having worked with Norbert, and other things are things which I only wanted to draw attention regarding the topic, regarding my topic, the relation of Norbert and the association I'm personally representing now. This is the International Society of Olympic Historians. I'm a board member and working in the board of this association since 2012, and I'm presiding this institution now since 1 year. This institution is, I would say, it's the network of all Olympic historians worldwide, and I know that some of you are a member of this organization. The most valuable and most important award this institution is handing out towards Olympic historians is the ISO Lifetime Award. And I'm happy that Professor Lamacini da Costa is amongst us, who received this Lifetime Award in 2016. And Norbert Müller received this Lifetime Award for the year 2019. Due to COVID, it was not possible to celebrate the award giving. And therefore, in the last year, in November 2021, we handed over 3 awards to 3 distinguished Olympic researchers. One of them was Norbert Müller. And we had been very happy to have Norbert online as part of this meeting. And this was very emotional and very recognizable ceremony for me. We all met in the Chateau Coubertin near Paris, which is an important place. Otto mentioned it also for Norbert Müller, because this is where the Coubertin family frequently met, and this is also the place which is dedicated to the history and to the legacy of the Coubertin family. So we had this ceremony there, and I was very happy that Norbert was present online and we could award him the ISO Lifetime Award. Now, he always was connected to Olympic history, but not only to Olympic history. And reflecting the two speakers before me, one can realize that Norbert was, first of all, a universalist. He was a universalist in Olympism with deep knowledge about Olympic history, deep knowledge about Olympic education, deep knowledge about Olympism in general, but with a very heartly interest to disseminate this knowledge towards everybody. And this is, I think, one of the key of success of Norbert's academic career and educational career. Only to recap, one should not forget that the term itself, the term Olympic education itself, is not a term invented by Pierre de Coubertin. This is a term invented by Norbert Müller. And we all practice Olympic education today. And one should remember that this is something Norbert Müller invented, defined, and practiced throughout his lifetime. And if you speak about Olympic education, then one should recall that for Norbert, Olympic education always was a discipline for practice and from practice. And he was never tired to disseminating also new materials on Olympic education and new methods of Olympic education. And I remember very well having had the honor to have organized 3 or 4 seminars together with Norbert, that the hands-on activities of Olympic education had been extremely important. And students until today recall the practicality of Olympic education. He had a very sensitive and very high emotional intelligence. And he recognized immediately when seminars became slow, became even boring. And what he did is he took the students, he went out to the field and he practiced. So one of those seminars I remember very well. It was slightly raining in Mainz, and we had been there. It was a 2-hour seminar, and after 1 hour, Norbert decided spontaneously, let's practice some of the ancient disciplines, ancient Olympic disciplines. So we went out to the light rain. It was not really warm, it was light raining, and we practiced. And this gave so much enthusiasm and passion back to the students that they got animated again, and they continued in the seminar. So he had this ability to do much more than presenting slides and presenting topics. He could engage his students, and this way of educating is something which was, I would say, which was like a virus you could get. Whoever was once in Olympia and whoever had experienced Norbert teaching in Olympia knows very well how this can work. And he knows very well how somebody got the passion of Olympic education. And I think as we are here all around, you know, we all got a bit of this virus. And I think this is one of the most important achievements of Norbert. And therefore, I would like to address his very special way of Olympic education. Another topic I feel free to share with you because it's a very beautiful one is one of the seminars I had the honor to organize with Norbert about ancient Olympic games, because as you said, Juan Diego, I'm a specialist for ancient Olympics. And this was a seminar in two parts. One part took place in the seminar room in Mainz, and the second part was a one-week excursion to ancient Greece. And usually I was used to organize those kind of excursions. So a month before, you know, we had a program, we break down the travels, we organize the hotels, we organize the daily programs from 9 o'clock in the morning, 8 o'clock in the morning, the whole day, the visits to the archaeological site, everything. Now, if you organize such an excursion together with Norbert, you could be sure that there always had been surprises. A big surprise, for example, was when we went to the Peloponnesos. We had a chat about a very important ancient site called Lykaion. Lykaion is a beautiful excavation site with a very well preserved stadium, which is up in the mountains. And this was not part of the program because I had been a bit scared with a bus to go up all the mountain. And of course, there was the very spontaneous decision to go there. So we went up the mountain, and it got dark, and then we arrived there when it already had been dark. And with the lanterns, we were trying to discover the stadium. But this anecdote only should show us that he never got tired to discover new things and also to discover new knowledge. And this passion was a very important part of Norbert's way of education, because everybody got this passion. There are many of stories of this kind, and I'm sure that everybody is able to share this kind of stories. And this is a very special thing, I would say. Another topic, and this is a topic which coincides a little bit with the universalism of Olympism of Norbert, was his tireless interest to discover new ways and new possibilities of academic research, and also new ways of distributing his knowledge. One of these were exhibitions. Norbert was very interested in organizing exhibitions, and I had the honor to organize one exhibition for the CIPC, and very specifically in the interest of Norbert Müller about Pierre de Coubertin and the Greek miracle at the Olympic Games 2004 in Athens. Now, for this exhibition, we did not have enough budget. To be honest, and I'm a museum person, I'm an exhibition person, we had about 30% of the budget we would have needed. So this, for many people, would mean we would have to cancel this exhibition project. But not for Norbert. So he wanted to find a possibility to organize such an exhibition, even though it seemed to be impossible. So some of his students accompanied me, and we took a lorry, and we took the objects, the valuable items from the Musée National in Paris, which was open in those times, and from the Musée Olympique in Lausanne. And we drove down all the way to Athens by ourselves. Now, he was enthusiastic to do this project, and at the end we delivered the project, and we could disseminate knowledge about the topic through an exhibition, a format which is a little bit outside of the usual scholarly, let's say, focus. But we did it, and many people saw this exhibition, and until today, many people recall this exhibition. This was possible due to his encouragement and due to his personal courage to do this, to recognize that there is something which seems to be impossible, but you do it. You do it because you have the passion. and the passion was driven. And I only recall this story because this is a very typical example of the way Norbert always achieved his goals. Sometimes in a very hard way, but sometimes in such a, let's say, more smooth way. So this great enthusiasm for Coubertin, for Olympic education, for Olympic culture, for Olympic knowledge, accompanied his life. And I think this enthusiasm and this driving force was the most important in order to deliver so many things and in order to distribute this virus all around the world. There was another exhibition project, and I would like to mention this exhibition project because it also went to Brazil, about Pierre de Coubertin et les arts, so Pierre de Coubertin and the arts. We started this exhibition project back in 2006 at the Sports and Olympic Museum in Cologne, and it was a real exhibition with the majority of the paintings of Charles de Coubertin, the father of Pierre de Coubertin. And I think for the first time internationally, we could get the whole topic about art and Coubertin and the relation between Pierre de Coubertin and the arts to a broader public. This exhibition became a traveling exhibition. It was shown in Estonia, it was shown in Poland, it was at least brought to Rio de Janeiro for the Olympic Games 2016. And it recently had been also on display virtually during the Games in Tokyo. Now, this was a project which was running over 15 years, you know, and it was always, and I commit that it was mainly Norbert who was the driving force behind it. Whenever new Olympic Games came up, I got a call and they said, Christian, I think we have to get this exhibition again. The people are interested. The people are interested in this kind of cultural approach. And he never got tired to do this. And everybody who worked with him in different projects, he knew that Norbert has this ambition to really make you contribute for that. And at the end, it was always a big pleasure to contribute to this kind of projects. Now, what I would like to say in summary about that is that he was an Olympic universalist. He was educator, historian. He was theologist, and he went into different areas, and he did it because he looked for all different fields to disseminate Olympism. A very nice story. I know that not many of you know about the story. I know that Otto, of course, knows the story. Is the discovery of Norbert by himself back in the 80s. He discovered, together with an engineer, a very specific, and this, by the way, has nothing to do with Olympism. He discovered a very new technology for a running shoe, the so-called Krallenschuh. And this was a shoe he developed together with an engineer for the company Puma. At those times, this was a very innovative discovery. And but it's another example which shows you that he really went into these directions. He went in all these directions. I think the shoe is existing sometime somewhere, and it will go to a museum, or at least it has to go to a museum in order to keep this legacy and this discovery. Another very small story which highlights the enthusiasm of Norbert Müller. And basically, this is what I would like to add from my personal point of view towards this ceremony, is the enthusiasm, the engagement, the courage which was needed in order to get so far and develop so much legacy and achievements towards Olympism. If I finally might add to the wonderful insight about the publications of Pierre de Coubertin, this was about Norbert Müller, not about Pierre de Coubertin. Then I would like to add some words about the Arabic translation of the texts of Pierre de Coubertin. Otto, you mentioned this. Otto Schantz and Norbert Müller had been supervising a project which we could initiate in the year 2012 here in Qatar at the Olympic and Sports Museum project, to translate the selected writings based on the French originals into Arabic. Now, the 3 volumes of the original publication had been translated. They had been corrected and reread by 3 different Arabic linguists. And Otto and Norbert got a selection of, I think, more than 100 images together. So the whole project was ready to be published in the year 2014. I was very interested in this publication from the beginning. And unfortunately, I left Qatar in 2014 and the project got a little bit forgotten. But this was the first thing I did when I came back a few months ago to Qatar, to run to the authorities and create awareness about it. And they told me that they will try the maximum to get it published for the World Cup 2022. So I keep my fingers crossed that this will happen and this will be possible. And I will let anybody informed about this publication. Hopefully this year, the Arabic version of Coubertin's writing will be published. Thank you very much.
No, thank you very much, Professor Christian. Please, big claps for him. We have several commentaries and several questions for both of you, Elvira and Christian. Several commentaries congratulating for your speeches from Daniel, from Edson, from Andre also. So they are congratulating you for their experience. So we have the first question for both of you from Christian Kern from Brazil. He says, how do you see in a practical way the impacts of Norbert Müller actions on young people today? What is the greatest legacy that must be cultivated to reach the next generations? So if you want first Elvira and then Professor Christian.
Well, I don't know if Ines is still there. I know that the International Pierre de Coubertin Committee organizes precisely this year Youth Forum in Munich, and Professor Müller worked for the organizing committee of 1972 Munich Games. I'm sure that we're going to have special sessions at our Youth Forum to talk about him and his life's work. And I think it is through our youth forums and Pierre de Coubertin schools that we can disseminate information about his life and work.
If I may add from my side, if you have a torch relay, you have one runner with one torch and he hands over the torch to the next one. And it probably would have been Norbert to carry 10 or 20 torches, and he is handing over all these torches to all of us. I think it is about us, about those who regard themselves as successors and are interested to contribute to the further development. So I think the way is paved in an excellent way, but I think we have to go it, and we have to continue. We have to continue to spread the word, and there are several organizations who are able to do it. Several organizations who had been impacted by Norbert's legacy. It is, of course, first of all, the CPC, but it is also the International Society of Olympic Historians and others. And it should be about us to carry it on and make sure that Olympic education and Olympism stays an important means also in the future.
Thank you, both of you. Now we're going to pass to the question that Carolina made to Otto in a personal level. Share some experiences or anecdotes or anything you want to tell us about your life or something you made together with Professor Müller. The same order, please, Elvira first and then Christian.
For me, it was interesting. The first time I attended a youth forum, for example, I was still learning to understand what it was about. I was new with the CIPC and the Coubertin Committee, and it was the last day of the forum, and I could understand how friendships were created among these young teenagers. And as we were saying farewell, because it was the last day, everyone was leaving the next day. Many, I call them children, teenagers. Some were crying. It was very emotional. And I told Professor Müller, but what is happening? Why are these young people crying? And he said, well, they should be. That means they created friendships. So this was, for me, very human, it was no longer Professor Müller. All of a sudden, it was Norbert. And this was my first experience of not considering him Professor Müller, who was writing the history of the IOC and the Olympic movement. It was Norbert. So this was a moment I can never forget.
Thank you, Elvira. Now, Christian, please share with us some experience on a personal level.
Yes, I think the first experience, the first experience, it's for me was the most important, and at the end also for many others around myself. As you mentioned before, I'm not a sports scientist. I'm a classical archaeologist. So I studied Greek, Latin, ancient history, and archaeology, and I was working in ancient Olympia for 3 years doing my PhD thesis there. So we used to stay in an excavation house. There was a small excavation house, and most of you had been in Olympia, and perhaps you remember one of your nice walks from the academy to the Olympic Village, or perhaps from the Olympic Village back to the academy. If you remember, then you always had to pass the excavation house, which was below the academy. So I used to live there for 3 years, and I used to stay there, and we did the excavation. And from there, we could see a very high fence. This was the fence of the Olympic Academy. And we had no idea what was behind this fence. This was basically the big enemy, you know, the IOC, the big enemy. And we did not want to go there. Now, one day I met Norbert Müller because I was asked to do a guided tour through the excavations, and there was Norbert Müller, and there was also the former IOC president Juan Antonio Samaranch, and I was honored to give them the guided tour through the excavations. We always had been asked to do that. And at the end of that, Norbert asked me if I would be interested to participate in a seminar in the IOA. So I was nominated for a seminar, and I went to one of the first postgraduate seminars there. And I have to say that I started to like this world, you know, the world of Olympism, the world of ethics, the world of ideas, the Olympic world. And I'm there until today. And this was basically Norbert's fault. So And I'm happy to be there.
Very good.
Excellent anecdote. And we remember the walking. So I have a couple of questions from Daniel. The first one is directly headed to Dr. Christian. He says that thank you very much for your conference, as has been a great presentation. So he's asking how Norbert Müller understood the possibility of adapting Olympic education to the different countries, for example, in the Latin American countries.
This is for me, right?
Yes, for you.
I always experienced a very open approach towards new things and towards also new activities. And when there was a chance to go to Brazil and to have a seminar about Pierre de Coubertin and found the Brazilian Pierre de Coubertin committee, he was the most enthusiastic person to do that. So he could not come personally, but he motivated all of us, Nelson, and I was there as well, and Robbie Markson, who was a dear fellow of Norbert Müller during his lifetime, my wife Marcia. So this was something he pushed. He always pushed from the back, and he did so many of those supports which never got visible. I think the foundation of the Pierre de Coubertin committee in Brazil was one of a very good examples. The same applied for the Arab countries. So there were no limits. And as a I would say as a truly religious person, as a truly religious believer, he also believed that this is something which should be open to everybody. He had no restrictions when we started the project in the Arabic world, for example. And I think this, and again, I spoke about the courage, you know, this combination of enthusiasm, courage, opened all these windows. And if we look around ourselves right now, I mean, this window is so wide open to Latin America that it cannot be closed anymore, which is beautiful.
Exactly. I agree. I agree with Christian, if I can add. I agree completely. Norbert had such an open spirit. His horizons were wide open. And for example, when we were setting up a Coubertin committee in India, he was most happy about it. So there are no rules. He was open to all cultures, to all nations, to all people.
Thank you, Christian and Elvira. So Martin, do you want to do the question again for Elvira, the one you made at the beginning of the panel?
Yes, I think it was about the Chinese translation.
Yes, the Chinese.
Yeah. Look, I apologize that it is not on the list of my presentation. Somehow I omitted it, but definitely we count with that work. I also heard that there was a translation in Russian, but we have never seen it. So I'm not sure whether it is a factual project or if it was somebody's initiative and maybe it was not finished. But I know that some years ago, somebody was talking about this translation, but we don't know if it really exists or not.
Can I add something?
Can
I add something to that, Juan Diego, regarding the translation? Because there's another quite typical personal habit of Norbert. He was not selfish at all. He was extremely unselfish. And only the fact that there are so many translations of these, and Otto will correct me if I'm wrong, that there are so many translations all around the world. There's one language missing. And if you imagine that two Germans started the project with Norbert and Otto, there is no German translation of the selected. So perhaps this is a nice example to illustrate that his approach was a very unselfish approach.
Yes, very interesting. So we have one last question for each of you. The first one from Rogelia Bravo for you, Professor Christian, is if you know any situations where Professor Müller has lived with refugees or seen from close the consequences of war.
To be honest, no, I don't know. I'm sorry.
No problem. So we pass to the last one, Elvira, from Daniel. We know the importance that Juan Antonio Samaranch has given to the works of Norbert. So he asks you, how have you perceived these relations with the presidents that have succeeded him until the present? The president of the IOC. Yeah.
Yes, I think there was a continuous line with the same attitude. Professor Müller was a monument at the IOC. This is what I like to say, because I was there and I know how much the administration with its presidents appreciated, respected, and really loved the personality. So both Dr. Rogge and Thomas Bach, they continued the same, how shall I say, they relied on Norbert Müller when they needed information, interpretation, or an explanation of some historic moments. So the IOC was his home.
Okay, so thank you both of you for your presentations, for your time here in the panel. If you want to do a closing message, please go ahead and we will finish the panel soon.
Okay. I would just like to, me gustaría agradecer por la invitación. Ha sido muy importante celebrar este día para honrar Norbert Müller. Creo que es el primero, pero no es el último. Tal vez podemos organizar algo similar en el mes de diciembre para el día de su cumpleaños. Es una idea, pero creo que habrá más momentos de celebrar la persona de Norbert Müller.
Eu também quero muito agradecer para tudo. Muito obrigado pelo convite. Eu espero que vai ser possível te entender meu português também. Muito obrigado para tudo. Isso foi grande prazer ficar com vocês hoje à tarde. Eu quero também fazer um pouquinho de promoção para podcast que foi feito esses dias. E se você vai na página do International Society of Olympic Historians, você vai poder fazer o download desse podcast. Isso foi um podcast feito com Kostas Georgiadis, Stefan Vasson, Maria Bogner, Holger Kühner e comigo sobre a herança e a legacia do Norbert Müller. Muito obrigado e boa tarde para vocês.
You could give the presentation in Portuguese without a problem.
Falou fantasticamente. Muito obrigado.
Okay, so thank you. Please.
Culpa da minha mulher.
Antes de que se retiren, por favor, recordarles que pues sigue la jornada de la tarde, ya no nos va a estar acompañando hoy, va a estar Lina Vélez en la parte de maestría de ceremonias, pero va a empezar a la 1 en punto de Brasil, eso es más o menos en 1:15, para que puedan retornar en el mismo enlace que estamos actualmente. Ahí van a seguir pues ya una segunda conferencia de la Martín da Costa y también van a ver un panel después de eso, así que para mí ha sido un gusto estar aquí compartiendo con ustedes. Gracias a Nelson, Daniel y Tomás por haberme invitado también y ya saben que estamos a las órdenes. Y pues un gusto a todos y que pasen una feliz día y feliz tarde o noche allá con Elvira y del otro lado.
Gracias, gracias. Hasta
Gracias.
luego.
Gracias, Elvira. Gracias, Cristian. Muchísimas
Muchas
gracias
gracias.
por su participación.
Nos vemos pronto.
Obrigado, Christian. Un abrazo, Elvira, y volvemos en 1 hora y 15 minutos, puntualmente para escuchar a nuestro amigo Lamartine da Costa.
Muchas gracias.
Con mucho gusto, gracias.